This is a demonstration of the Semitool SRD 240S, a tabletop spin, rinse, dryer wafer cleaner. High performance cleaning, rinsing, and drying system for 25 wafer batch cassette. Single bolt rotors available for 2-inch or 4-inch diameter wafers. A maximum wafer size for the 240 model is 4-inch diameter. On-axis orientation keeps the wafers parallel, allowing DI water manifolds to spray both sides of product continually and simultaneously. It is equipped with a PSC 101 controller with a built-in resistivity monitor. It is powered by 120 volts, 50 hertz, 50 amp service. Whenever we test anything that comes in contact with cleaning wafers, we always use DI water. This is our system that we normally use. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that it is always important that this be perfectly level in both X and Y axes. Very important for the operation. Also, before we start it up, importantly, there are 2 EMO emergency buttons, one in the front and also one in the rear. While we're back here, we'll take a look at some of the connections. We have the DI water rated at 15 to 25 psi, a nitrogen supply rated at between 30 and 40 psi, and a DI water recirculating return. This is our main drain. The drain itself has a screen in it to catch any broken wafers that might fall into it. This is the resistivity monitor and a vent for the inside enclosure. Now we'll go, and before we go back, this is the main power button that we will turn on. Now, there you go. Cut. System on. There is 4 different steps in the booting up of the controller. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once it passes that, it'll then allow you to open the door. Until then, you cannot get inside. Also, it's important to remember that this is a sealing gasket as well. This actually is a balloon type effect which will expand outwards. So if you have this door open, let's say, while you turn the power off, it can blow this little gasket out. It's very easy to put back on. The other thing that's important is it has a device in the back that always keeps the rotor upright. It uses a standard H-bar type wafer boat. This particular one is the 4-inch model. We'll put that in there. Now, I've put together a sample recipe to run. This is very typical. The one thing that is different about the way we run here is that normally when you get to the second step, which would be the quality rinse, that will display the resistivity of the water. This will continue to run until that comes down into a particular set point. But we have very clean wafers here. There's virtually nothing on them. So you can also, in the book, null that out as well. Before we start, we'll just show you a few things. This is about the EMOs. The programming and changing of your times and your sequence of steps, very easy to follow. This is an excellent manual. It's written very well. Most of it is text, but it's simple to understand. Now, this is the Otto Cycle, which I have off right now. If you initiate the Otto Cycle option, what that will do is once you start the equipment, this will start counting down in seconds. and you can load a boat of wafers in there and walk away and go somewhere else. And when this finally counts down, it will automatically start and run your recipe. As I had mentioned, the resistivity alarm is also an option in here that I presently have turned off so that we can just constantly run. This is important. Each rotor is rated for a maximum RPM, and that is always etched right in the front of the rotor. If you look carefully, you'll see it there where it says 2800 RPM. So even though you have the ability to program different speeds or RPMs, rotations, you cannot exceed that. There's also some nice utilities in here. One of them is a motor test and a resistivity test. So you can test individually the resistivity monitor and the motor at different speeds. I've highlighted this in the book because I found it very helpful. They have a pretty extensive troubleshooting chart, but as long as you have the nitrogen on and the water on and all the pressures on, and you won't have any problems really with it. There's a very good parts list. Sometimes manufacturers leave out a lot of things, but this is nice because it not only has, it's categorized into either electrical, general, mechanical, and consumable as well. And what's very nice is it has extensive schematics. So there's a schematic and a chart for everything. If you're interfacing communications, it has all the data that you would need. So you'll find this very, very handy for those who have never used one before. Now, once again, it is very important to remember about these type of dryers that you should never spin one without a fully loaded wafer boat with wafers in place. These are balanced, they're very delicate, and it is not good. It could be damaging if you spin this without the wafer boat in place. But there is no interlock, so that is just one thing in this industry you always have to remember. So now we're going to run the sample recipe that I made. Once the door is closed, all you have to do is hit the start button. And we're going to just follow it all the way through. Take a few minutes. Now next, we will switch to the quality rinse, which normally would be measuring the resistivity and would maintain that step for as long as it takes to get to the set point. However, I have put in a 60-second time for it. Following the quality rinse will be a 10-second purge. It is only showing the resistivity error because I've bypassed it. However, we've gone past the purge and we're now into the first of two dry steps. versus the cool one. Typically there are some recipe examples in the user's manual, but typically the drying takes a little bit longer, so I've stepped these both up to 90 seconds. And now we go to our next step for drying. Heat is applied in this step. Also, I should mention that once this is running, this door is locked. You cannot open it. And you can stop the recipe running at any time by hitting the stop button. There's a slight delay of about 5 to 6 seconds before it'll release the door. Now you'll notice that it turned itself upright. You can hit the stop button. It returns back to its first step, which is not even a step. It's the beginning of your recipe, which is idle. It releases the door. You can actually feel the heat in here too. And all of our wafers are nice and clean and dry. Once you read through the programming, there's 5 buttons you can push here. They're very well illustrated in the manual, and it's a very good piece of equipment. And that completes this demonstration.